Welcome back. As you may be aware, May every year they have the Skulls of the Skull Throne sale, which is the huge sale on Steam for all the Warhammer games that want to participate in the sale event. And typically, the games that are still active, they will have some sort of DLC or maybe a free unit release or just a massive sale on their products for when this happens every year, and it kind of gives you an idea of what games are going to be still in process and which ones are effectively dead. So there were several announcements, some of which are more exciting for me personally and other ones that may be more exciting for you. But I thought I would just go over the information that I found just as a real cursory review after I finished and got home from work today. Of the games that I have access to, the Vermintide 2 had some major patch up works here. So if that's a game that you are looking into purchasing, have a lot of fun with, it looks like they made tons of balancing fixes. They improved the bots, so hopefully they'll be a better teammate for you. And then they added another map to the campaign here. So if that's something that interests you, certainly go ahead and check that out, especially if you're going to be playing multiplayer, because it looks like they're doubling the experience you're getting. So if you're one of those people that likes to be a completionist and wants to get all these kind of different portrait frames and things like that, you can go ahead and work towards that. For me personally, I enjoyed my time with Vermintide, but I can't run the same map over and over and over again. I don't find that particularly enjoyable. I've just never been big into the hordes killers. I definitely enjoyed my time with that game, but I don't kind of enjoy running those same missions over and over again. So not a game that I'm super into, but it is not a bad game by any means. I'm not trying to throw shade at it. And if you love Vermintide, it looks like there's some free stuff. Well, it's not free. You have to, I think, buy the map, but there's some other free things that are going on in this game too, with some patch updates. So that may be something that interests you. For me personally, I'm pretty excited about these battle sector changes here. If you want to see the trailer, you can watch that. I feel kind of weird about playing a trailer on my own channel here because I feel like I'm just stealing their information. But pretty much the big thing for battle sector is if you don't want to spend any money, you'll still get a reward. They did release 2 new units that are for free. One is the Adeptus Sororitas now have access to Dominions, and it looks like those are going to be kind of a bolter-based, storm bolter-based unit, so I'll definitely play around with them eventually and put up a video on those units. And then for the Orcs, they're getting access to the more melee guys, so pretty much they're giving you access to boys that are going to have the Chappas and Sluggas, giving you more of a melee oriented army. I would hope that would be a sign that maybe they're going to focus more on giving you the option to do more of a melee build, because of right now, the orcs are set up in such a way that you really are strongly encouraged to go with a ranged build over the melee. So, it's kind of a fun unit to have these guys available, but I'm not really sure they're going to be used very much, but who knows, maybe they'll be amazing units. Now, if you're willing to spend, and then I think you also get access to this new game mode, Crusade. Maybe I'll try it out. It doesn't seem like it's super impressive from what I'm able to see. It looks like you just start a challenge and then you take a basic army and you fight your way through hordes of enemies, and you can level up your units and you get bigger armies as you go on. It's unclear to me whether this is just like an endless horde mechanic. I find those kind of boring myself, but if they're, because I don't think there's going to be any sort of story involved, but again, I could be totally wrong. I'll play around with it a little bit and see what it all includes. But if you're definitely into somebody that likes to do kind of those endless hordes and skirmish campaigns, this may be something that interests you as well. And then the thing that I'm most interested in is they created a new story campaign. I had heard some rumors that they were maybe thinking about doing this on some of their prior releases, and it looks like they may in fact be going forward on this, and because they have created a new story campaign for the Adeptus Sororitas here, and it looks like it's going to cost about $13.50. I'm unsure if I'll be able to find like a CD key cheaper than that. Usually you're not able to find cheaper CD keys right on a release. I will say on Steam, one of the things they're good about is if you bought the whole bundle, sometimes they'll give you a bundle price where it'll actually reduce the price of that. And in fact, maybe I'll actually check that out and see if that would work here. I'll do that off a camera, I guess, and let you know. But it looks like it's going to be a multi-mission campaign here. I'm hoping it's going to be fully voice acted. Yeah, it's 12 missions, and then it's going to give you 3 additional units to your Sisters of Battle. So that should be something that should be pretty interested. And I will definitely run through that campaign once I'm done with what I'm currently working on. So that'll definitely be something that I'll be playing around with. And it looks like you got the, I think it's Imagifier, I think is how you say it, the Castigator battle tank, and then the Zypherim. I think that's a melee-based Seraphim, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, the Castigator battle tank is a battle tank, and I'm not sure what this is, if it's a spellcaster or what, so I will definitely have to play around more with those units, and you can look forward to me creating some videos on those and reviewing them on like the Tuesday, Thursday unit reviews as I keep making my way through our other series here. So I'll just add those into the rotation here. So I'm pretty excited about that. If you're a big battle, I can't talk today, Warhammer 40,000 Gladius fan, they also released a new DLC for this game, the Onslaught Battle Pack. Now, it's not a faction battle pack, so it's going to give you additions to 8 units. I probably personally will not buy this. I tend to not think the DLC packs are the greatest value. I do have a video where I go through every DLC pack for Gladius and kind of give my 2 cents on there if you're interested. If you want to take the plunge into Gladius but you don't want to spend the money to try it out, just be aware that for the Skull Thrones release here, they are giving you the access to have this free to keep for 1 week to kind of play around with the Gladius game. So if you had kind of been toying around with the idea of playing this game, well, you can do it for free for the next week here. And then these are the different kind of units. Looks like you get one for Necrons, Drukhari, Eldari, Astra Militarum, Adeptus Mechanicus, Space Marine, or Chaos Space Marines, Orcs, and Tyranids. Now, the one thing I did forget to mention with the Warhammer 40,000 battle sector that I was thinking about mentioning, but then I kind of got sidetracked when I was remembering the Gladius release, is they did mention that they are going to release the Black Legion towards the end of the year. So I'll definitely be looking forward to that, because the Demons of Chaos are kind of a letdown. They're somewhat of a fun faction, but they're definitely a one-trick pony. So once you kind of get an understanding of it, you don't tend to play it the most for very competitive play, because your opponents know what kind of build you're going to be doing for the most part and can counter you pretty heavily. So I'm hoping with the Black Legion that should effectively be a very diverse force, hopefully, and that should allow the Forces of Chaos to have a faction that they may be able to play more competitively, because I know that's really been annoying for some people that are big Chaos lovers, is they just feel like they can't play the Chaos faction because the Demons of Khorne are just not super competitive. So pretty big announcements here for the battle sector. So as I'm a big fan of that game, I'm definitely very, very happy about that myself. And then kind of sad news that's kind of solidifying my thought that these games are dead is Sanctus Reach is now leaving Steam, as is the Warhammer 40,000 Armageddon. In fact, I think both of these may be off of Steam currently. Yeah, so May 20th, Armageddon fell off, and then May 20th, Sanctus Reach fell off. Now, you can still get it on GOG, so if you're watching some prior videos, you wanted to play around with it, definitely take that into consideration. What I don't know, and I suspect might be the case, is sadly, I wonder if that means the subscriber who was working on all those custom campaigns that I had played through, whether that was officially released. He said that they did release it on a patch, but when I reinstalled the game, I didn't have it. Now, I still had the developer patches installed on my game, so I don't know if that was restricting me from being able to play any of those DLC, but he did think that some of them were officially released. So if you do have the Sanctus Reach series installed on Steam, it looks like you're still going to be able to play it, so you may want to try to reinstall it and see if any of those custom campaigns were ever formally released. I didn't want to remove the patch from my file because I didn't think I would be able to reinstall it, and I think it's kind of cool to have access to all that hard work that player put a lot of work into. So even if it's not officially released, it will stay forever alive on my computer as long as my computer hard drive does not die. So that'll be my lasting contribution to all of his hard work, because he did practically everything. I just played around with it and gave some feedback and did a little bit of bug testing for him, but he did all the work. And I hope that he had some of it released before everything was shut down here, because that would be a real shame if that never got to see the light of day. Now, alternatively, maybe if it's coming off of Steam, maybe that would make them more willing to release it if there had been some issues with it. I know they were talking into having some issues with some intellectual property rights, I think, was kind of where there was a hang up on some of the units and they were forcing them to be deleted. But I sent him an email to see if anything had been updated. I never heard anything back. So for all I know is that email account that he has isn't active anymore. But definitely sad to see that Sanctus Reach and Armageddon are falling off of Steam now. And then I'm also excited about this, but they've announced now that the Mechanicus 2 is full force going forward. I had heard rumors that this game was coming out, and now they're starting to show some trailers, so certainly if you're interested in that, you can watch it. Looks like the big thing to know about this game is when it is released. In the first game, you could only play as the Adeptus Mechanicus, but it sounds like in the second version you can play as either the Necrons or the Admech, so you got to kind of decide which way you want to do it. Now, I suspect that means it's going to be a shorter campaign and you're just going to play the same maps on different sides, possibly kind of similar to how what was that game? Not Deathwing. Damn it. Space Hulk was, because you could play as either the Tyranid forces, the Gene Stealers, or the Space Marines in there. So I wonder if that's kind of how that will work in here, but that's just pure speculation on my part. Now, other news that was a little bit disappointing to me is the Warhammer 40,000 Deathwing and, Tactics. I didn't expect much from either of those, but I was kind of curious whether some of the other Warhammer 40,000 games I had were going to have any sort of DLC releases or not, and I didn't really see anything for these other games, and then obviously these ones are taken off of Steam, so I was not terribly shocked to see that none of these had any sort of releases. I was a little surprised to see that the Inquisitor did not have any major releases. Now, I think they just had some pretty big patch releases back in April, so that may mean that this is still in process here, but I was kind of expecting the Inquisitor to have some Skulls for the Skull Throne releases here, but I did not see that to be the case. And then again, the big news here is that Mechanicus 2 is being released. But just kind of making my way through here, obviously Space Marine, their big thing is that they're Space Marine 2, so maybe someday I'll get around to playing that game. But kind of just going through a lot of these things, a lot of them are pretty much not having any sort of major releases and just being are just pretty much done, unfortunately, here. Now, one thing I was kind of sad about is there was no release for Warhammer 40,000 Chaos Gate. I kind of suspected this was going to be the case, but I always kind of hold out that maybe they'll have some more major DLC releases, because I really enjoyed this game. But, it's now been 2 years and they haven't released anything, so I think they pretty much finished up with this game. I can't say I'm terribly shocked, but, until there's a couple of years where nothing's released, I always kind of keep my fingers crossed that maybe something is going to happen here. But I think it's pretty safe to say that the Demon Hunters is done now. Now, the only last thing I wanted to mention is with the Skulls for the Skull Throne sale here, if you are interested in purchasing any Warhammer 40,000 games, this tends to be the best Warhammer discount sales of the year, other than, Christmas time and some of those other major holidays. So if you were thinking about buying some of these games, now would be a great time to think about it. Space Marine 2 is 40% off, Dark Tide 60% off, Rogue Trader is 50% off. So for $25, I think that would be a steal if you're really into those heavy RPG games. I've heard really good things about the DLC that they've released, and I've heard that they're going to release a pretty major second DLC as well, so I expect big things for them. Now, I personally don't like to go through and do a lot of those, reading all those sort of RPGs. I played Planescape Torment when I was a kid and things like that and kind of enjoyed it, but now it just seems like kind of a chore. But I guess that's probably just a lazy American over here. But that if you're definitely looking into getting into Warhammer games and you have not played Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader, you're really into those, like I said, I couldn't recommend it enough. I watched somebody else play it and their kind of clips and things like that, and it was definitely a cool game, and they have a lot of cool ideas. I think there's a lot of replayability because you can decide, do you want to be kind of an extremist or do you want to be a purist? You just have to decide, and then you can have some different playthrough mechanics and different people in your warband or party, depending on how you're playing through it, and the outcomes of missions can be really different. So definitely, I think it would be well worth $25. If you're into kind of the old Doom games, then something like Bolt Gun could be something that would interest you. The original Space Marine, is always great. It looks like they're going to create some new additions to the Dawn of War games, so you may want to wait on purchasing some of those. But I always recommend the Dawn of War games, one of my favorite RTS variations for the Warhammer 40,000 series. Kind of going along with the Rogue Trader, it sounds like Owlcat, who makes these massive RPG games, they're going to release a new Warhammer 40,000 game called Dark Heresy, so that should be huge, and I will definitely be looking forward to this coming out and kind of seeing what it's all about. Again, I don't know if I personally will be playing it. Now, the biggest hurdle for me personally is, like I said, I don't enjoy having to do all that reading, but it sounds like it's going to be fully voice acted, so I don't know. Maybe I'll reconsider it. If you're into Dark Tides, like I said, they have some great deals going on, and there's also some new DLC and things that are available. And then this is the next DLC that's coming out here as well for Rogue Trader if you're thinking about purchasing that game. You can get the original Mechanicus game for $6. I think that's a steal. Definitely would recommend it. Like I said, if you're interested in Gladius, you can try that for free for a week, and then all the DLC has heavy sales. If you want to take the plunge into the Total War Warhammer franchise, all of those have been heavily discounted during the sale as well, so definitely would be pretty interesting to look into. Again, a lot of these other things have great sales as well, and I'm just trying to see if Mordheim is here, because I bet you could get that for a couple bucks. So let's see. The Realms of Ruin, that's not a bad game. I'm going to do a playthrough of that, and I think that's for $12. So that seems like a recent decent deal. Even more so, the Chaos Gate Demon Hunters for $11. I would 100% recommend that game. I really enjoyed that game. I can't recommend it enough. For $4.50, you can get Deathwing. That seems like a great deal. I don't know. I've heard mixed things about the Hired Gun, so that's not something I may play. But if you were thinking about doing that and want to do kind of a first-person shooter, that would be a definite option. I really enjoyed the Gothic Armada games. It looks like you can buy those for a few dollars, so definitely something to look into. If you're into those, what are they called, action RPGs or whatever, where you're just kind of like a Diablo-like game, then you may want to look into the Inquisitor. Now, my playthrough of that is a little bit painful, especially for people who play a lot of those games, because I was scared to use a lot of my resources and make really good weapon crafting because I didn't want to lose my equipment, and I definitely didn't want to have to grind. But my playthrough of that game is probably 40% longer than it had to be, just because I didn't maximize my equipment, and that's kind of the key thing when you're playing those type of games. So that was really stupid of me. Now, you can buy Necromunda for a couple of dollars, but that game sucks dick. So I just have such a negative perspective on that game. I can't recommend it, but honestly, for probably $2, it wouldn't be the end of the world if you just want to play around with it, especially if you liked Mordheim. But it was just such a definitive letdown for me. I'm just totally disgusted by it. For $2, Stormground is good. Yeah, see, here you go, Mordheim for $2. I mean, I think you've seen how long it took me to go through all those DLCs and make my way through it and do those campaigns. So I bet you could probably get everything for maybe $10, if that. So if you enjoyed the Mordheim game and you were thinking about getting into it, by all means, now I think would be a perfect opportunity for you. And then just looking into this here, I had mentioned that if you had bought everything on Steam, sometimes you can get a better sale if everything's bundled together. So let's see here. So Deeds of the Fallen. So I guess that price that it must have showed me before
was likely with the discount, because it looks like here they want $15 for it. So the price I had earlier was the discounted bundle price and not just the single here. So yeah, see, that's what happened. So it gave me the bundle info, so you can get 10% off even on release here, dropping it down to $13.50 if you bought all the other bundled items here. So it's 10% off, so it'll save you $1.50. So you'll have to make a decision for yourself whether you think that's worth it. I think for me, I will definitely ultimately purchase that and play my way through it. So that's what I have to say about the Skulls festival here, and hopefully that's helpful. Several people just asked me to put a quick video together just to share the information with people in case they were unaware. Like I said, I think the biggest thing is if you're seeing me play some of these games and you wanted to jump in but we're waiting for a sale, I think this week is your week to get some good deals if you got some money burning a hole in your pocket. So with that, I will sign off. I hope you're enjoying these videos. If you are, please give my channel a like and subscribe to encourage me to post more content for you, and have a great day.